You don't remember when it began, only that it's always been there. The way her silence pulls at you harder than her words. The way a glance, withheld, burns deeper than desire fulfilled. You tell yourself you don't care. But even that is a performance. A secret theater for an invisible audience. Somewhere behind your eyes, a stage is always set, and you're not sure if you're the actor, the watcher, or the one she never noticed. A dream keeps returning. You are in a room with no doors. A woman walks in. She does not look at you. She doesn't have to. You ache for her attention, but the more you reach, the more her shape dissolves. You wake before she touches you. You always wake, but the feeling stays. Not love, not pain, need, unnamed, ancient. And then, the echo. Why does she follow the one who walks away? Why does she smile for the one who doesn't ask? Why does your coldness draw her in deeper than your warmth ever could? No answers. Just this, you care, and she can smell it. You say you don't care. You wear it like a badge. This indifference, you call it freedom, detachment, power. But you forget or refuse to see that every man who claims not to care is still answering to something. The script may change, but the author remains. You thought you escaped your father when you stopped needing his approval, but the unconscious doesn't erase, it replays. And now, in every woman you chase or ignore, in every time you withhold or yield, the dead father speaks through you, not as a voice, but as a rule written in flesh. You rebel. Yes, but even rebellion is obedience when it never leaves the game. And you never left the game, because indifference is not liberation. It is the inverted face of hunger. You say you're above it all, but you still measure your value by whether or not she reacts. You've just learned to disguise it better. A slow reply, a turned back, a glance withheld. You think these are weapons, but they're prayers disguised as strategy. You want to be untouched, but you ache to be chosen. You want her to kneel, but only because you've already submitted to the mother, to the father, to the system you pretend you've transcended. She senses it, the tension behind your posture, the calculation behind your coldness. She's not drawn to the cruelty, not exactly. She's drawn to what it masks, something older than cruelty, something feral. You've called it dominance, you've called it power, but it's not power, it's unresolved obedience. A boy still trying to impress the image he buried. Think, you've loved before, you've given too much, been wounded, humiliated, forgotten, and you swore never again. That was the birth of your indifference. Not strength, not sovereignty, just a scar wrapped in silence. Now you rehearse a new role, the one who doesn't care, the one who doesn't chase, the one who watches her walk away and smiles. But you do care, and it bleeds through the cracks. Why does she respect the man who doesn't react? Why does she desire the one who offers nothing? It's not because he's cold. It's because he doesn't orbit her, because his center is elsewhere. That is what she craves. Not love, not approval, but orbit gravity. And your gravity. It still points to her, or to someone behind her. Some original woman who never gave you what you wanted. You turned your need into armor, but she still feels the weight of it. The father is dead, but you still obey. In every silence you weaponize, in every text you delay, in every smirk you practice in the mirror. You are answering to the same figure, you just replaced his name. Rebellion is only the second act. The third is possession. The fourth is disappearance. But you never made it past Act 2. Even your dominance is inherited. Watch how you speak about women when you're alone. You borrow the words of men who died before you were born. You mimic their contempt, their detachment, their hunger dressed as disgust. But beneath it all, there is a longing not for women, but for initiation, to be pulled out of the boy's body and crowned with the masculine wound. But no one came to do that, so you mimicked the coldness. You taught yourself indifference as if it were a right. You confuse numbness with awakening. You fear her power over you, so you retreat into an imitation of godhood, detached, aloof, unmoved. But the real gods, the ancient ones, bled, fought, took, and were taken. Dionysus was ripped apart. Osiris was dismembered. Even Christ, nailed and forgotten. What you practice is not power, it is anesthesia. You learn to feel nothing because you couldn't bear feeling everything. And she knows. She always knows. Not consciously, not in language, but her body knows. Her nervous system knows. The way your eyes hesitate, the way your touch lacks conviction, the way your coldness reeks of old hurt. She doesn't want your love, not really. She wants your gravity, your axis. And if you don't have one, she spins you like a toy, tests you like a maze, then walks away whispering to herself, another one lost. The illusion is this, that women want cruelty. They don't. They want containment, direction, not from dominance, but from integration, from a man who has looked into the face of the father, not the man, the symbol, and said, I will no longer carry your guilt. I will no longer inherit your silence. I will no longer become your shadow. Think, you've loved before, you've given too much, been wounded, humiliated, forgotten, and you swore never again. That was the birth of your indifference, not strength, not sovereignty, just a scar wrapped in silence. Now you rehearse a new role, the one who doesn't care, the one who doesn't chase, the one who watches her walk away and smiles. But you do care, and it bleeds through the cracks. Why does she respect the man who doesn't react? Why does she desire the one who offers nothing? It's not because he's cold, it's because he doesn't orbit her, because his center is elsewhere. That is what she craves. Not love, not approval, but orbit gravity. And your gravity, it still points to her, or to someone behind her, some original woman who never gave you what you wanted. You turned your need into armor, but she still feels the weight of it. The father is dead, but you still obey. In every silence you weaponize, in every text you delay, in every smirk you practice in the mirror, you are answering to the same figure, you just replaced his name. Rebellion is only the second act, the third is possession, the fourth is disappearance. But you never made it past Act 2. Even your dominance is inherited. Watch how you speak about women when you're alone. You borrow the words of men who died before you were born. You mimic their contempt, their detachment, their hunger dressed as disgust. But beneath it all, there is a longing not for women, but for initiation, to be pulled out of the boy's body and crowned with the masculine wound. But no one came to do that, so you mimicked the coldness. You taught yourself indifference as if it were a right. You confuse numbness with awakening. You fear her power over you, so you retreat into an imitation of godhood, detached, aloof, unmoved. And then, the echo Dionysus was ripped apart, Osiris was dismembered, even Christ, nailed and forgotten. What you practice is not power, it is anesthesia. You learn to feel nothing because you couldn't bear feeling everything. And she knows. She always knows. Not consciously, not in language, but her body knows. Her nervous system knows. The way your eyes hesitate, the way your touch lacks conviction, the way your coldness reeks of old hurt. She doesn't want your love, not really. She wants your gravity, your axis. And if you don't have one, she spins you like a toy, tests you like a maze, then walks away whispering to herself, another one lost. The illusion is this, that women want cruelty. They don't. They want containment, direction, not from dominance, but from integration. From a man who has looked into the face of the father, not the man, the symbol, and said, I will no longer carry your guilt. I will no longer inherit your silence. I will no longer become your shadow. But you haven't done that. You're still in dialogue with him. You still compare yourself. You still react. Even in your withdrawal, you are reacting, and women can smell that. Your indifference is not mystery, it is unresolved mourning. You mourn the version of yourself that once begged. You hate him, you buried him, but every time you look in the mirror, he's still behind your eyes. Why does she want the man who walks away? Because he's not performing. Because he's already whole or broken so completely that even her touch cannot rearrange him. Because his center does not live in her reaction. You pretend to be that man, but you're not. You still flinch when she texts someone else. You still spiral when she doesn't need you. You still calculate your moves like a gambler with nothing left to bet. And it's not your fault. You were never taught the difference between presence and possession, between desire and addiction, between love and obedience. No one told you that indifference without self-possession is just cowardice dressed in confidence. That emotional detachment is only sacred when it is chosen from fullness, not born from fear. The father is dead, but he lives in your silence, in the way you talk about her behind closed doors, in the pride you take in withholding, in the secret pleasure of being needed, even as you pretend to walk away. She sees it. She doesn't chase you because you're strong. She chases you because she thinks, maybe, she can be the one to break through that wall. She mistakes your wound for depth. She reads your coldness as mystery, but eventually, she realizes it's not mystery. It's absence, not power, just avoidance. And when she sees it, she leaves. Or worse, she stays and starts to reflect it. You mirror each other's ghosts until neither of you remembers who moved first. You become the thing you feared, emotionally entangled in a war of withdrawal. No one wins. No one bleeds. Just silent starvation. So ask yourself, who taught you that not caring was strength? Whose ghost are you still trying to impress? Whose approval are you still pretending not to want? The man who does not care is still a servant to fear, to memory, to the wound of once having cared too much. The father is dead, but you still obey. You call it attraction, chemistry, interest, but those are lies, decorative names for a force you never truly understood. The libido is not a feeling, it is a command, a primeval contract inked in the flesh long before you had language. You dress it up in romance, in ideals, in strategy, but beneath every gesture, every compliment, every well-timed silence, the truth pulses, unbending and blind you want. And that want does not ask for permission. It does not wait for consent from your intellect. It moves without you, in spite of you, through you dragging your gaze to her mouth, your attention to her absence, your rage to her indifference. You are not as rational as you pretend to be. You never were. Every man believes he chooses. He thinks he weighs the pros and cons, considers her value, assesses his risk. But that is only the theater of the mind. Behind the curtain, the beast is already moving. She brushed her hair behind her ear and the calculation was over. You've been making excuses ever since. She didn't have to do anything. She didn't need to earn it. You were already choosing. But you still wear the mask of logic because it gives you the illusion of power, of control over the uncontrollable. This is why she does not believe you when you say you're not interested. This is why your coldness rings hollow. Because the libido does not lie. Your body betrays you before your mouth can recover. You pause too long when she speaks. You track her in rooms without knowing. You claim you don't care, but your jaw tightens when she laughs with someone else. Your blood burns when she turns her back. And that is the truth, not the words, not the performance, but the pulse. The libido is indifferent to your preferences. You say you want a woman who listens, who respects, who builds, but you desire the one who withholds, who escapes, who dares not to need you. You try to bring these opposites into alignment to make yourself want the woman you can have. But the body refuses. The body knows. It is not loyal to your ego. It wants what it wants. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't adapt. And it certainly doesn't care about your list of reasons. This is where the shame begins. You start to despise yourself for wanting the woman who doesn't reciprocate. You punish yourself for craving her approval. You twist that punishment into pride, call it independence. You turn your vulnerability into ritual detachment. You starve your libido, thinking starvation equals control. But what you suppress only mutates. The libido you repress becomes rage, sarcasm, contempt. You mock her, you belittle her, you pretend she's beneath you, but it's not her you're mocking. It's your own helplessness. You see, desire humiliates. That is its essence. It reduces you to need, to ache, to a state of exposure where your defenses collapse. That's why you flee from it. That's why you disguise it in irony, or conceal it in distance. You learn somewhere that to desire is to lose, that whoever wants more is already subordinate, and you can't stand being beneath. You can't bear being seen wanting more than she does, so you fake the opposite. You simulate indifference to reclaim the upper hand, but your body is still screaming, and she hears it even when you don't. Because the libido doesn't need words. It's older than speech. It operates in the muscles, in the breath, in the timing of your glance. She can feel it when you want her, even before you know it yourself. And when your actions contradict your signals, she trusts the signal. When you say, "I'm not interested," but everything in your being leans forward, she feels it. When you act unfazed, but your pupils dilate, she knows. You cannot lie to the feminine instinct. She is tuned to the pulse beneath the posture. So the question is not whether you care. You do. The question is why you keep pretending not to. And the answer lies in shame. Not about her, but about you. About the fact that your desire never made you king. That wanting didn't bring you love. That your deepest cravings were ignored, rejected, ridiculed. Somewhere in the story of your life, you were taught that wanting makes you weak. That the only safe position is to not need anyone. And you believed it. So you carved yourself into a monument stone, silent, unmoved. But the libido still lives inside the statue. It hasn't gone anywhere. It watches. It waits. And when the right woman enters the room, the one whose voice unravels your spine, whose indifference haunts your sleep, the statue cracks. And you panic, because suddenly you're 13 again, waiting for a message that never comes. Suddenly, you're naked again, exposed by a need you swore you buried. So you retreat, not from her, but from yourself, from the unbearable truth of your own desire. The libido does not negotiate. It does not ask if she's good for you. It doesn't care if she's ready, loyal, kind. It only cares if she moves the wound. That old wound the mother who withheld, the girl who vanished, the woman who smiled just before she broke you. That is the compass. That is the map. And until you confront that map, you are not free. You are only rerunning the same ritual with new names, new faces, new stories. but always the same hunger. This is why your strategy fails, because your actions are hollow. You try to manipulate attraction like a chess game. You delay responses, withdraw compliments, perform scarcity, but your libido is still kneeling. It's still trembling. It's still praying for her gaze. And she knows. She always knows. Because women don't fall for performance. They fall for energy. And if your energy contradicts your posture, she'll believe your energy. She won't respect the coldness if it's faked. She won't worship the indifference if it's just a mask for repressed need. So she leaves, or she plays you, or she mirrors your performance. And now you're both pretending not to care while silently waiting for the other to break first. No one breaks, no one touches, just endless distance. A theater of restraint, played to no audience. Because the libido does not respond to silence. It requires truth, and truth is always raw, always dangerous. It demands risk, exposure, honesty so visceral it burns. But you avoid that. You choose distance. And in doing so, you exile your own vitality, because libido is not just sexual. It is life force. It is the root of aggression, creation, motion, will. When you silence it, you don't just lose desire, you lose drive. You become passive, numb, lost in abstraction, detached from hunger, from movement, from yourself. You begin to wither, not visibly, but deep inside, in the places no one sees, the parts that throb in the dark when no one's watching. And still, you pretend. You wear the mask of the one who doesn't chase. You adopt the posture of the untouchable man. But deep down, you know she was the only one who stirred your blood, the only one who made you forget your tactics, the only one who made you feel alive, and you let her go. Not because you were above it, but because you were afraid to lose again. The libido does not negotiate. It does not care about pride. It does not care about rules. It only knows this: when you feel that pulse, that hunger, that unbearable longing, you are not broken. You are awake. But you turned away, and she felt it, and she never returned. You thought she wanted a man who would care, who would show up, who would love purely, give generously, respond faithfully. You thought being available was enough. You thought devotion would be rewarded. But you were wrong, and not because love is a lie, or because women are cruel. The truth cuts deeper. She does not chase the one who gives her everything. She chases the one who withholds, not out of cruelty, not as a tactic, but because he is already somewhere else, because his absence is real. And real absence, unlike performed detachment, cannot be manipulated. It stings, it confuses, it haunts. You gave her your time, your presence, your affection, and still she drifted. You tried to be kind, attentive, even restrained, but the more you gave, the more her eyes wandered. You thought it was about value, that if you just made yourself better, she would stay. But she wasn't responding to your gifts. She was responding to your gravity, and your gravity was already surrendered. It orbited her. She became the center. You became the offering. And in that inversion, the mystery was lost. The tension dissolved. The chase died. Because what draws her is not possession. It is distance. Not the man who arrives, but the one who remains just out of reach. You've seen it. You've lived it. The one who ignores her, he is the one she texts. The one who disappears, he is the one she dreams of. You hated it. You called it madness. You thought it was dysfunction. But you never asked the deeper question: why does absence burn brighter than presence? Why does the man who isn't there linger longer than the one who stays? Because she's not drawn to love. She's drawn to meaning. And meaning lives in lack, in the unanswered question. in the space between contact and fulfillment. The man who gives her everything leaves her nothing to reach for, but the one who withholds, without needing to not to manipulate, but because his center is elsewhere, he becomes a mirror of something ungraspable, a symbol, an echo, a myth. That is what seduces her, not the man, the space he leaves behind. You confuse that with strategy. You mimic absence. You delay your replies. You pull away. You pretend not to care. But it doesn't work because it isn't true. She can feel that your absence is still about her, that your silence is still part of the game, that behind your performance is still the desire to be chosen. The real man who isn't there is truly elsewhere. He doesn't need her to notice. He isn't leaning in from behind the curtain. He's simply gone. Not physically, psychologically, emotionally. His axis doesn't orbit her. And that is what stings her. That is what burns her. That is what pulls her. This is not about being cruel. It's not about domination. It's about orientation. Where is your core? Where is your center? Because if it's in her gaze, she will eventually look away. Not because she wants to, but because she has to. The feminine tests for gravity. She probes for weight. And if she finds none, if your presence is merely a mask for need, she withdraws. She may not even know why. But her nervous system does. Her womb does. Her silence does. She doesn't want to be worshipped. She wants to be claimed, not with force, not with noise, but with absence so complete it becomes presence. A presence that does not reach, that does not plead, that does not explain itself. Because it is. That's the paradox. The man who doesn't reach is the one she wants to reach for. The man who does not wait is the one she waits for. The man who forgets her is the one she cannot forget. And that man, the one who isn't there, he is not playing a role. He is not pretending. He is simply oriented towards something deeper. His mission, his silence, his solitude, his God, something beyond her. And that beyondness is what she feels. That is what makes her heart race. Not because she's chasing love, but because she is drawn to the abyss, the unknowable, the flame that cannot be possessed. And most men extinguish that flame too soon in the name of love, of comfort, of closeness. They give themselves away before they've even become anyone worth receiving. But the one who doesn't offer himself becomes the altar. You mistake her longing for attention. It isn't. It's spiritual, archetypal. She doesn't want you. She wants what you've withheld if, and only if, it was withheld because it belonged elsewhere. That is the essence of masculine magnetism. Not coldness, not performance, but sovereignty. And sovereignty means she is not your throne. She is not your answer. She is not your home. When she senses that truly senses it, she aches, not out of pain, but out of recognition, that she has found a man whose silence is louder than all the words she's ever heard. The tragedy is this: you've likely been that man before, in some brief moment, perhaps before you knew you were being watched, before you noticed her gaze, before you began performing. For a flicker of time, you were simply present, not for her, not against her, but without her, and in that space, she saw something rare, something raw. But then you noticed her noticing, and everything changed. You became the performance. You tried to repeat the moment. You tried to strategize what was once unconscious, and the mystery died. She chooses the one who isn't there because he reminds her of the thing she cannot name, of her own longing, of the part of herself that has never been met. He becomes a doorway, not a destination, a threshold, not a container. And in that haunting, She feels more alive than any comfort could provide, because comfort is not the path to the sacred. Longing is. You can't fake this. You can't imitate it, because to truly be the one who isn't there, you must be gone. You must have already buried the part of you that needed to be chosen. You must have walked through the shame, the hunger, the rage, and emerged with nothing left to prove. Only then do you disappear from the game. Not because you've won, but because the game no longer touches you. And from that untouchable silence, your presence begins to matter. Not to all women, not even to most, but to her, the one whose soul is attuned to the frequency of absence. She doesn't want the man who stays beside her every night but has no weight. She wants the man who haunts her dreams because she can never fully hold him. She wants the ache, the lack, the surrender to something she can't quite grasp. That's what awakens her. That's what she worships, not the man, but the space he leaves behind. So stop pretending not to care. Stop posturing. Stop mimicking the man who isn't there. Instead go, not away from her, but toward yourself, toward the place you abandoned when you first learned that love could be lost, toward the silence you've been avoiding, the grief you haven't faced, the fire you haven't walked through, because only from that distance, real, sacred, irreversible, will she feel you. Only then will you become the one who isn't there, and only then will she follow. There is a door in her mind that only absence can unlock, and behind it, not you. Only the echo of a name she never learned to pronounce, a scent without a body, a gaze that never arrived. You were never the man, only the mirror, only the ghost, only the space where she imagined herself whole, and in that space she loved you most.